How to build an easy and simple wither skeleton skull farm in Minecraft. These are the resources you will need for this farm. Okay, so the first step to this farm is of course to get yourself into the Nether. And then once you've gotten into the Nether, you want to find yourself a Nether fortress, which I have right here. And once you've found yourself a Nether fortress, you want to find yourself a Nether fortress that has one of these cross patterns. Now I have one right here, so we have ways going in all directions. And we have another one over there, here, and even two up there. However, I'm going to pick this one simply because it's a bit more central. But anyways, if the crossway you found has a little port thing like this, simply destroy this whole thing or gate entrance or whatever you want to call this. So simply destroy all that. And then once you've done that, you also want to destroy the 3 blocks we have in the corners, just because we're going to need ourselves quite a little bit extra space. Now also, before we get started on building this, you can see that there is quite a lot of mobs in the area. What I would recommend you doing that is just kill off all the mobs and then maybe just block off the area. So for example, kill off all the mobs, then just build a small gate right here that will prevent mobs from coming to you. Well, of course, while you're building the farm, and then you're going to destroy those later. But anyways, let's get back to building the farm. So what you want to do is find the middle point of this crossway, which is right here. Then you want to do is place yourself out 2 temporary blocks going upwards. Then on the second block right here, you want to place yourself a trapdoor on the bottom part of it, like this. So if you now open these, they should open towards the top block. And then you want to build yourself a row of fences going almost all around the trapdoors we have built so far, but you want to leave it empty on one side like this. And then once you've done this, you want to expand the wall on one side by one more going outwards. Now I'm choosing this side, but it really doesn't matter too much, so you can do this on any of the sides. And then once you've done that, what you want to do now is place yourself a slab on top of those 2 temporary blocks we placed earlier, then destroy those 2 temporary blocks. Then what you want to do is place yourself a block in the back right here, just temporarily, as an under the last trapdoor. Then you want to run some railings into the middle right here, because what we need to do now is capture a piglin and put into this room. And this is of course because wither skeletons will try to attack the piglin, which will then lure them into the killing chamber. So of course, since I'm in creative, I'm simply going to spawn one in. So I'm going to place a minecart right here, one of these right next to it, push it into the minecart. But before we continue, as you can see, this has a crossbow, which is not good. And this is because if we now push this into this room, what we're going to have is ourselves a trident killer right here. This means that if, for example, a wither skeleton runs over here, over time it will run over here and fall into the trident killer. But because this guy has a crossbow, we will be able to shoot and kill the wither skeleton skull right here, or the wither skeleton. This means that if that wither skeleton were, for example, to drop a skull, it will drop right here and despawn. So this means that we will have to kill this one, and we will have to get a new one that does not have a crossbow, ideally a sword. So for example, this one has a sword, which is perfect, but it ended up running towards that wither skeleton, so be careful because of that. Oh, and this one has a sword, which is perfect, so that means that I can now push this into here, and I can destroy the other railings we had going out there. So anyways, what we'll have to do now is get started on the trident killer. So to do that, break out these 4 blocks, then break these 3 more blocks going downwards. 1, 2, then 3. So the next step, once we have done this, is to place yourself a double chest in front right here. Then place hoppers going into the double chest, turn around, and then place 2 more hoppers going into those hoppers, like this. And now we should have 2 more blocks pretty much right above the hoppers before we reach ground level. So anyways, then head into here and then destroy all the blocks we have going all around the hoppers, like this. And then break these blocks 1 higher, just to have a little bit extra space while building the trident killer. So anyways, then place yourself a piston pretty much right under the same block that has the piglin on it, like that. Then rotate to the right and place yourself another piston right here, 1 here, and then 1 right here, like this. Then what you want to do is stand next to the second piston you placed and place yourself a piston while looking at the first piston you placed. So now if we destroy the first piston we placed, the little face should be looking towards the piston and the little arrow should be looking away from it. Then stand behind the first piston we placed, second and then place yourself an observer while looking at the first observer, and then the little arrow should be facing into the second piston we placed and away from, well, the first observer. Then just continue the same steps, so stand right here, place an observer while looking at this piston, head over here, observer, 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 and then 1 final observer. Now this might be a bit confusing, so if I just press F1 right here, what you can do is take a screenshot and then just make sure all the pistons and observers are facing the right way. And obviously we're going to double check to make sure this works. So to do that, we're going to break the blocks we have right here, place a lever on top of one of the pistons, flick this on, and now the piston should kind of go around once or extend once. Flick this off, and now this should go around constantly, and if that is happening, then you've done this correctly. Anyways, what you can do is temporarily turn this off, and then of course replace the blocks on top of all of these, like that. So anyways, now that we built a trident killer, we obviously need to find ourselves a way down to the chest to pick up all the items we're going to get. So to do that, head pretty much in the middle of this area, then go 2 blocks back from the trident killer, 1, 2, break yourself 3 blocks down, 1, 2, 3, and now we should reach into this room. So what you can do now is break yourself 1 more down actually, and now you will be able to get into the chest, and we will also be able to turn on and off the farm. So what you can do now is place yourself some ladders right here, simply so you can get in and out of here, and then obviously place yourself a trapdoor right here. Now by this trapdoor you should be able to turn on and off the farm pretty quickly, which is pretty nice. But also, before we continue on building the farm, make sure to place yourself some buttons down here on the floor, just to prevent any mobs or anything like that from spawning down there. So anyways, what you want to do now is throw yourself a trident on top of one of these pistons. Now to quickly say, I've already thrown a trident on here, but if you want to, and I would highly recommend this, get yourself an anvil, place a trident into the anvil, and then put impaling 5 on that trident. It's not necessary, but I would recommend it, so anyways, then do that if you want to and have the opportunity to do it, and then throw that trident up to the pistons. So anyways, once you've done that, the farm is almost ready to use beside building an AFK room if you want that. So what you can do now is head down there, turn on the farm of course, by flicking that lever, and to quickly say, well, as you can see, a wither skeleton is already running into here, but to quickly say, before flicking on this trident killer, I would highly recommend to do it with a sword that has looting 3 on it, as that will increase the chances of getting more resources. So anyways, once you've done that, what you can do now is simply break out all the blocks we've placed around here, like that, and just to make this platform a bit bigger, we can also break out some of these blocks, just to have a little bit more space for potential wither skeletons to run in here, but of course it's not necessary, but if you want to, you can expand this platform just a little bit, like for example that. And as you can see, wither skeletons are already running towards her, it's kind of getting ignored by this little guy, but now we should be running towards the trident killer. As you can see, it's falling into there. So anyways, now the farm is pretty much done and we just have the AFK room left. Now there's a few ways you can stand AFK in this farm. One is simply down in this room if you want, which is probably the easiest, or if you want to, you can also build yourself an AFK room roughly 40 blocks above this farm. So for example, I'm gonna go over here and then just build 40 upwards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And obviously once I've reached the roof, you can simply break yourself upwards until the rough areas. I need to get up to around 90, which is perfect, just to stand AFK. Now you don't need to stand AFK this high, and it might depend a little bit on your sim chunk distance, but standing AFK for example up here will be a lot safer too. And obviously you can break yourself a way to get out by simply breaking some blocks right here. Doesn't matter too much, you can do as you wish. So what I'm going to do now is just break some blocks down here so you can jump down. But what you can do now to stand AFK is to either stand up here for example, or if you want to, you can also just stand AFK inside your trident killer room, which also works. So yeah, anyways, that is pretty much that. And now anytime a wither skeleton spawns in, at least in the general area, it will get attracted to this piglin, try to kill it, which means it will run over here and fall into the trident killer and die. Now one quick thing I want to say is that if we just stand AFK, what you will notice is that a lot of wither skeletons will spawn over here for example, which will reduce the rates of this farm. Now this is of course because I built this in a crossway that has a lot of other crossways close to it. But one way you can prevent this is simply of course by placing some buttons right here, which will of course not allow anything to spawn right here. So what you could actually do is just place a bunch of buttons or slabs all over these other areas that are close to the farm, and that pretty much means that wither skeletons and odd mobs could only spawn well where you want them to spawn.
A few moments later.
Alright, so I've been standing AFK up here for a few minutes, roughly 5-6 minutes. So let's jump down there. These guys are just standing here, should, fall into here soon anyways. But I got a bunch of XP jumping down there, and if we look into this room, we have gotten 3 wither skulls, which is pretty nice. And in addition to that, we also got some coal and some bones. Now bear in mind that you will get a lot of swords, so I would recommend you have some extra chests if you're planning on standing AFK here for a while. So yeah, as you can see, just from a few minutes of AFKing, we have already gotten 3 skulls, which is pretty damn good. So yeah, anyways, that is pretty much it for that one. Thanks so much for watching and hope you found this helpful. If you have any questions about how this works or anything like that, feel free to leave them down below and I'll try to answer as quickly as possible. Anyways, thanks so much for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.